If you've spent any amount of time on TikTok or social media lately and you happen to come across some Gen Z content, especially younger women, you might have seen something called hot girl pills or silly girl pills. Now, these pills or medications are referring to a drug class, basically antidepressants and SSRIs, which are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
What's up and welcome to Sam Miller Science, where you're joining me just over a decade into my personal journey of working to bridge the gap between metabolism, macros, muscle, and medicine, all while helping coaches scale the impact that they desire and deserve. If you are here, thank you so much for listening and for trusting me to help you elevate your coaching game or to lead you in your transformation to realize your true potential. In either case, each week I'll be sharing my methods, models, and message to serve as leverage for your specific goals. Without further ado, let's get on to today's show.
Inside today's episode, I'm going to focus primarily on internal health implications, why we need to understand why there's potential cause for concern here when we glamorize drug use in any way, and how we should be thinking about this in terms of individuals. If you're watching this and this is for your own health, or listening to this for your own health or for your clients, why it's so important to have informed consent and understanding of different medications and their mechanism of action, as well as potential side effects as well. Because if you're only watching TikTok and seeing the creation of purses, pillows, t-shirts, and other things that are glamorizing Prozac and other mental health drugs, it's going to be hard to really understand the truth and making the best possible decision from a health and medical perspective. Now, we're not just talking about normalizing poor mental health or making people feel seen or understood related to different emotional states, mood states, and potentially even mental health diagnoses. What we have to understand here is we're looking at an entire generation of women and thousands, if not millions of individuals on social media who are consuming content related to basically creating an attitude for young girls to feel like they're not on the bandwagon if they are not taking these drugs. And that's scary because you can be happy, you can be silly, and you can be a hot girl all without consuming Prozac, SSRIs, or other mental health related medications. So in this episode, largely what we're going to be talking about is how just because something is normal or normalized doesn't necessarily mean it's common or best for your health. We've had this conversation about a number of different things, ranging from different types of diets, different states of metabolic health, and in today's conversation, we're talking a little bit more about mental health. Now, the concern here is the first thing we really need to explore would be the ramifications or risks or consequences and side effects of prolonged SSRI use. Now, these are things that you'll find even in randomized controlled trials, as well as potential adverse reactions that have been reported by patients or people who have been prescribed these medications. SSRIs are known to increase the risk of metabolic health issues like insulin resistance and high triglycerides. They can potentially limit, impede, or even crush someone's libido and overall sex drive. And many times people are taking these because maybe they don't feel the best in terms of their relationships and other things. So now when you have potential implications in terms of someone's libido and sexual health, that can sort of perpetuate this cascade of negative mental health related symptoms. They can also cause insomnia, which can then impact nearly all bodily systems. They can affect appetite, leading to weight gain or weight loss. Many people experience gastrointestinal issues on SSRIs, and they can lead to a bit of a numbing or flat effect, meaning while you don't have the low lows, you may not have the high highs. Now, this isn't to demonize any particular drug class or to say that no one potentially needs medication. The problem that we have here is there may be individuals who are taking these medications simply to be on the bandwagon, or because the hot girls or cool girls or girls with a substantial amount of followers on social media with pillows and purses and t-shirts related to Prozac and other SSRIs are taking these things. And if someone is not necessarily in a state where they need to potentially seek out these medications, or they don't understand the side effects, we have some significant issues. And there's also the potential for over-prescribing or essentially over-prescription of these particular medications. So these are not benign drugs. And anytime we're talking about pharmacology and looking at full body systems, we need to understand the implications of these drugs and medications. They cause significant adaptations across the brain and body that can take weeks or months to reverse when someone comes off, even if the drug is tapered very well with medical supervision. And many people will come off of their antidepressants or SSRIs without medical supervision or without tapering, and that certainly can have consequences too. A big danger to this phenomenon that we're seeing is we're completely missing the root cause of things like anxiety or potentially even depression. So first and foremost, we have data to support things like exercise, nutrition, lifestyle-related changes, getting adequate sleep, all supporting our states of mental health. So this isn't to say that individuals don't have mental health concerns, that we don't have varied emotional states. It's not to say that everybody achieves the same levels of well-being and happiness. However, we need to control certain controllables in our lifestyle that are lower risk, and especially when we're talking about children, young women, and people in their formative years of life where we still potentially have brain and body development going on. I think this is something that needs to be a broader topic of conversation where at least there's some awareness and making sure people do have that informed consent, which is so important. You could look at this in parallel avenues like birth control, for example, is a very popular topic right now on social media. A big danger to the phenomenon that we're seeing again is why do we have this sort of mood state in the first place? Why is there depression or anxiety? Are there micronutrient deficiencies? Are we not getting outside, getting adequate sunlight? Potentially having low serum levels of vitamin D? Are there issues related to the gut? Many of these younger women, if they have repeat antibiotic use, that could lead to changes in the microbiome as well. So we can break this into some broader categories and break it down from there. So first, depression and anxiety can be brought on by your life and or circumstances and behaviors. There's also depression as a result of neurochemical imbalances that can be perpetuated as a result of inflammation, sleep loss, poor diets, and micronutrient deficiencies. In either case, this is your body essentially sending you a message. And from a mental health perspective, we're certainly feeling that message in terms of our emotional state, and it's something that we shouldn't ignore. We have to think, are we getting adequate time with friends and community? There's studies that show that in order for, moving this away from the hot girl conversation, even looking at men's mental health, that men need a certain amount of time as far as community-related conversations, time with other men, and ability to do certain activities in order to achieve optimal states of mental health, and just feeling like they have friends and a network and support system and people that they can count on and call on. So in this case, right, if we have these women who are maybe experiencing these things, have we explored, especially with modern technology, are we getting outside enough? Are we spending time in nature at all? Are we meeting, our needs from a nutritional perspective? When is the last time we exercised? Are we living a sedentary lifestyle versus simply jumping straight to the heavier medications? And in some cases, these are in higher doses as well. So for some direct examples, according to the data, time spent on social media directly correlates with depression and anxiety in young women, most likely due to comparison with others. This could also displace real connection that one might have in person with a group of friends as well, which is also a big issue because people are replacing that in-person time with online time. We know that time spent with friends and community is necessary for proper mental health, and screens are displacing that more and more and more in 2024 and beyond. Even in other cases, anxiety brought on by relationship stress is a stimulus, an attempt to fix that relationship stress, which can be hard. This might require sometimes confrontation, painful conversations, or just difficult conversations in general, kind of sitting with that. But stuffing things down beneath the surface or numbing certain issues with medication may not be the way to approach it, or could potentially be making things worse, right? Are we taking these medications instead of seeking out maybe guidance from a counselor or therapist or trusted mental health advisor of some kind? These are things we need to consider versus jumping straight to prescription medication, and in some cases in high doses. In terms of neurochemical imbalances and inflammation, a lot of this could be mitigated by practicing many of the things that our bodies have been programmed to do for essentially millions of years of evolution, meaning getting adequate movement, sunlight, eating whole foods, so single ingredient whole foods that have micronutrients, essential amino acids, and essential fatty acids, sleeping well, managing your stress, And one thing that we need to keep top of mind is gut health when we're having this conversation. So again, we run into a situation where our body is signaling us that we need to engage in these basic activities needed to thrive. For a few examples in the research, we do actually have some pretty strong data and journals to support a lot of these lifestyle-related factors when it comes to mental health and depression. We have a 2023 meta-analysis of review studies on exercise versus SSRIs for depression specifically. This covered 1,039 separate clinical trials with over 100,000 participants, which is a very, very large data set. Very substantial, and something that we would look to as a very strong level of evidence to carry over into a potential coaching setting, or just in terms of making decisions around our personal health, if you're someone who does this just as your own kind of journey in terms of bettering yourself. They found that exercise is 1.5 times more effective than SSRIs at relieving mild to moderate depression. We also have systematic reviews of trials on bright light therapy versus SSRIs for seasonal affective disorder. So many people are taking these SSRIs, they begin to experience seasonal depression, maybe November, December, January, February. And so they're taking these drugs and also not understanding that there may be some long-term implications there, or they're on them permanently. It's not necessarily just a seasonal solution. A systematic review of randomized controlled trials saw that when switching from a standard American diet to more of a Mediterranean-style diet, it actually decreased depression scores by 47% on average, so nearly half. We also have good data on omega-3s alleviating depression through their anti-inflammatory effects, and there's many studies looking at micronutrients, things like zinc, B vitamins, vitamin D, and magnesium on depression that all show good results as well. Now, this isn't to say that some individuals won't necessarily need exercise, supplementation, and potentially the support of a medical professional when it comes to their mental health. However, there are some people who are skipping the lifestyle components, the nutrition components, and the exercise components, and going straight to medication, especially if it's being glamorized and popularized on social media, when social media influencers, especially for younger women, when they're comparing themselves to these people, are talking about hot girl pills and silly girl pills. So one thing we need to consider is how maybe nutrition, training, exercise, getting outside, getting adequate sleep are playing an important role in this conversation, not to mention simply the volume of screen time for some of these younger generations. I happen to fall into more of that millennial group, but we do have Gen Z spending more and more time on their phones and being subject to these messages and making decisions related to their health as a result of this messaging. So as we're wrapping up here, realize the glamorization of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors or antidepressants cause more and more people to lean away from dealing with the root cause of their particular condition. And they lean into popping a pill, which does have consequences. And what's most important is that we understand those consequences, especially if we're going to make a decision to take a drug or medication, right? A lot of those side effects, things we talked about earlier in terms of gut health, metabolic health, those are not discussed. It's not like you flip over that Prozac pillow and on the back of your hot girl pills, it talks about all of these things and the implications in terms of both short and long-term health. We'll have a larger population of young women more at risk for metabolic health issues and the numerous side effects of SSRIs if they are recklessly taking these medications or doing so without any type of management in terms of other aspects of their health. Even worse, we're essentially fostering a culture of avoidance when it comes to dealing with hard things in our life and hard issues. Now, mental health is a difficult conversation, and emotional and mental obstacles that we face in our life can sometimes be incredibly challenging, require leaning on our support systems, our community, and even, as I mentioned, mental health professionals and sometimes medical providers in order to seek out the care that we may need. So this isn't to diminish the reality or the importance of what is an ongoing mental health crisis, but understanding that there are deeper reasons and there's a root for the mental crisis at hand, combination of technology and social media, along with the abandonment of basic lifestyle practices that can really improve someone's quality of life and their mood overall. So when we look at this, we need to make sure we're not fostering that culture of avoidance. There are situational aspects of, there's quotes like the quality of your life is directly proportional to the number of hard conversations you're willing to have. While that may not be in a randomized controlled trial, there's still something to be said about being able to communicate, whether it's with your significant other or a friend or a sibling or someone who's important in your life, and navigating different things with the team of people around you versus solely numbing things out, creating kind of this flat line through medication and the use of substances. There may be situations where it's difficult to motivate yourself to maybe get out of a certain financial situation or find a different job or find a different relationship if you are facing a difficult season in your life and a lot of different challenges. However, if you were only to hop on TikTok or hop on Instagram or see merchandise related to hot girl pills or silly girl pills, and you're in your early 20s and you are very I think, receptive or kind of like a sponge to this messaging, that can be very, very dangerous. So effectively what we're doing here is in many cases hitting the easy button when it comes to our health, but understanding that I think what's important is we develop the understanding is that when we attempt to push that easy button, that actually we can make things more difficult long-term in terms of our metabolic health, our mental health, aspects of our gut health, and so much more. So this is something that I share because it's something that's very popular right now. It is a controversial subject, and by no means is it to not be sensitive to the fact that people have varying states of physical and mental health. It's just, I don't know that it's necessarily appropriate that we do have this kind of glamorized push for people popping more Prozac, right? So if you enjoyed this particular episode or it's something that you resonate with, or you feel like we do need to be having these exercise, lifestyle, and nutrition conversations before potentially putting people on medications that they may be on for life, if you enjoyed this episode, do me a solid, give me that virtual fist bump or high five by simply sharing the show. You can also leave a 5-star rating and review on audio. If you are watching on YouTube and you're watching my channel, please support the platform by subscribing, and you can even hit the notification bell to see more content like this in the future. I know that at times content like this can be sort of throttled by the algorithm, or depending on your discussion of different medications or prescription drugs, it's kind of hit or miss in terms of how many people may see this, given that it is somewhat of a controversial topic. So if you think someone could benefit, please put it in their hands either by sharing one-to-one, or you can screenshot this episode, tag me in your stories. I'm at Sam Miller Science on just about every major platform. And we have the YouTube, which is my channel. It's just Sam Miller on YouTube if you're looking to check that out, or at Sam Miller Science there as well. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into today's episode and listening and hearing more about this very controversial topic, and hopefully making a little bit of a change in our society in terms of both our physical and mental health. I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you in the next show.